The trunk was the last thing left in her room. My sisters had already taken everything else. The jewelry was gone, all $27 million of it, divided between Valentina and Francine with the surgical efficiency of two women who had been mentally cataloging their mother's collection for decades, waiting for the day they could finally put it on. The diamonds went to Valentina. The emeralds went to Francine. The gold pieces, the estate brooches, the Art Deco pendants, the 3 strands of South Sea pearls that my mother had acquired at an auction in 1994 and wore exactly once to a governor's dinner in Richmond. All of it, sorted, appraised, divided, and removed from the house within 72 hours of the funeral. And then there was me, standing in my dead mother's bedroom on a Wednesday morning in late September 2024, looking at a locked steamer trunk that had sat in the corner of this room for as long as I could remember. Valentina had looked at the trunk during the will, reading, then looked at me and smiled. "At least Mom had a sense of humor," she said. Francine didn't even look. She was already on her phone, talking to an appraiser about the emeralds. Bennett Yardley, my mother's estate attorney, had read the will in his Richmond office 3 days after the funeral. The language was straightforward. To my daughters Valentina and Francine, I leave my jewelry collection to be divided equally between them. To my son Odell, I leave the contents of my personal trunk, currently located in my bedroom, along with all items contained therein. That was it. My sisters got $27 million in jewelry. I got a locked trunk that nobody had ever been allowed to open. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't hurt. I was 45 years old, and my mother had just died, and I was standing in her bedroom holding a crowbar because I didn't have the key, and the 2 women who shared my last name but had never shared anything else with me had walked out of the attorney's office 3 days ago with matching smiles and matching fortunes, while I carried a trunk to my truck like a man hauling someone else's luggage. My name is Odell Ramsey. I own a one-man auto body repair shop called Ramsey's Collision on Route 17 in Williamsburg, Virginia. I fix dented fenders, repaint scratched panels, and restore vehicles that other people have given up on. I make about $48,000 a year, which is enough to pay the rent on my shop, the rent on my apartment, and keep my truck running. It is not enough to matter to anyone in my family. My sisters never understood what I do. Valentina married a cardiologist and lives in McLean. Francine married a commercial banker and lives in Bethesda. They wear clothes that cost more than my monthly revenue. They drive cars that are worth more than my shop, and they have spent 45 years looking at me the way you look at a piece of furniture that came with the house. Always there, never chosen, tolerated but not valued. I was different from them. I always knew it, but never understood it. Darker skin, different features, different build, different everything. When I was young, I assumed it was just genetics being unpredictable. My mother, Lorraine, was fair-skinned with light brown hair. My sisters took after her. I didn't. Nobody explained why, and I learned early that asking questions about my appearance made my mother's eyes go somewhere far away, somewhere I couldn't follow. The trunk was the one thing in the house that was off-limits, always locked, always in the same corner. My mother cleaned around it but never moved it. When I was 8, I tried to open it with a butter knife. She caught me, and for the first and only time in my life, she raised her voice at me. "Don't touch that, Odell. Ever. That's not for now." Not for now. Like it was for later. Like there was a day coming when the trunk would open and whatever was inside would finally make sense. That day was September 25th, 2024. I knelt on the hardwood floor of my dead mother's bedroom, wedged the crowbar under the brass latch, and pried. The lock gave with a sound like a bone breaking. The lid opened, and the smell hit me first. Old paper, dried lavender, the particular mustiness of things that have been sealed away for decades. I reached inside. Letters. A stack of them tied together with a faded blue ribbon. 47 letters, I would count later, each one in a handwriting I didn't recognize, each one addressed to Lorraine Ramsey at the Richmond address, each one postmarked from Alexandria, Virginia, with dates spanning from 1979 to 2003. Underneath the letters was a single envelope, separate from the stack, addressed to me. Odell, My mother's handwriting. The handwriting I knew from birthday cards and grocery lists, and the notes she used to leave on the kitchen counter when she left for the shop early. Breakfast in the oven, love you, Mom. Underneath the envelope was a document I almost didn't recognize because I had never seen one like it before. A birth certificate, but not mine. Not the one I'd seen in my files, the one that said Lorraine Ramsey, mother, father unknown. This one was different. This one said, Mother, Josephine Marchetti. Father, Calvin Osei. Child, male, born, April 4th, 1979. Place of birth, Georgetown University Hospital, Washington, D.C. I read it 3 times. Then I opened my mother's letter. My dearest Odell, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and the trunk is finally open, and the time I always dreaded and always knew would come has arrived. I need you to understand something before you read anything else in this trunk. I need you to understand why. You were never supposed to be raised by them. My lungs stopped working. I read the line again. You were never supposed to be raised by them. Them. Who was them? Them is the Marchetti family. Josephine's family, your family by blood, though they have never claimed you and never wanted to. What I am about to tell you will change everything you think you know about yourself, about me, about your place in this world. I am asking you to read all of it before you judge any of us. And I am asking you to believe, as you read, that every choice I made was made out of love. You are not my biological son, Odell. You are the son of my dearest friend, Josephine Marchetti, and a man named Calvin Osei. I adopted you when you were 3 days old, and I have loved you every single day since as if you came from my own body, because you came from something just as deep. You came from a promise I made to a woman who trusted me with the most precious thing she had. I set the letter down, picked it up, set it down. My hands were doing something they've never done in 20 years of auto body work, a trade that requires absolute steadiness, a trade where a trembling hand means a crooked paint line or a misaligned panel. My hands were shaking so badly I could hear the paper rattling. I am adopted. My mother was not my mother. My sisters are not my sisters. My name is not my name. Everything I have believed about myself for 45 years is a story someone else wrote, and the real story has been locked in a trunk in the corner of a bedroom, waiting for me to finally pry it open. I kept reading. Josephine and I met at the College of William and Mary in 1972. We were roommates, and she was the most extraordinary person I had ever known. Brilliant, passionate, fiercely independent, and trapped inside a family that valued obedience above everything. The Marchettis are one of the wealthiest families in Northern Virginia. Construction, government contracts, real estate, hundreds of millions of dollars built over 3 generations. And with that money came expectations. Expectations about who the children would marry, who they would associate with, what kind of life they would lead. In 1978, Josephine met Calvin Osei at a gallery opening in Washington. He was a graduate student in architecture at Howard University. He was from Ghana. He was brilliant and gentle, and he looked at your mother the way I always hoped someone would look at me. They fell in love in the way that young people fall in love, completely, recklessly, without any thought for what the world would say about it. The world had plenty to say. The Marchetti family had even more. When Josephine became pregnant in early 1979, her family gave her an ultimatum: end the pregnancy or be removed from the family permanently. No inheritance, no contact, no name. Josephine couldn't do either. She couldn't end the pregnancy because she already loved you. And she couldn't leave the family because leaving the Marchettis isn't like leaving a dinner party. It's like leaving a country. They control everything: finances, social connections, professional networks. To leave would mean starting from nothing, and Josephine, for all her courage, was 22 years old and had never lived outside the family's structure. So she came to me, and she asked me to do the bravest, most heartbreaking thing I have ever done. She asked me to raise you. I was on the floor now. Not sitting. I had slid off my knees and was sitting flat on the hardwood, my back against the bed, the letter in my lap, the trunk open beside me, its contents spreading across the floor like the pieces of a life I didn't know I had. The arrangement was this. I would adopt you at birth. Josephine would officially have gone to Europe for a year. That was the story the Marchettes told. In reality, she stayed with me in Richmond for the last 3 months of the pregnancy. You were born on April 4th, 1979, at Georgetown University Hospital. I was in the room. I cut the cord. Josephine held you for 6 hours before she had to let you go. She asked me to promise 3 things. First, that I would love you as my own. I have kept that promise every day for 45 years. Second, that I would never tell you the truth while she was alive, because the knowledge could put both of you in danger from the Marchetti family. I have kept that promise, though it nearly destroyed me on the nights you asked why you looked different from your sisters and I had to lie to your face. Third, that I would keep her letters and give them to you when the time was right. The time is right, Odell. I'm gone. Josephine is gone, and you deserve to know who you are. Read the letters. They are Josephine's, written to me over 24 years, from 1979 until her death in 2003. They are the story of a mother who loved her son from a distance she never chose and never accepted. They are the story of you, Odell, told by the woman who gave you life and spent the rest of hers grieving that she couldn't watch you live it. And when you've read them all, call Bennett Yardley. He knows everything. He has instructions. I love you. I have always loved you. Not as a duty, not as a promise, kept as a mother. You are my son, Odell. Biology didn't make you mine, choice did, and I would make that choice again 1,000 times without hesitation. Mom. I sat on that floor for a long time. The house was empty. My sisters had taken the jewelry and left. The movers had taken the furniture Valentina and Francine wanted. The rooms echoed, and I sat in the echo, holding a letter that had just rewritten 45 years of my life. Then I picked up the stack of 47 letters, untied the blue ribbon, and started reading. The first letter was dated June 12, 1979. Odell was 2 months old. Josephine wrote, Lorraine, I saw you and the baby at the park yesterday. I parked across the street and watched for 40 minutes. He was sleeping in the stroller. You were reading a book. I wanted to walk over so badly that my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't. I can't. But God, Lorraine, he's beautiful. He has Calvin's forehead and my chin, and he's the most perfect thing I've ever created, and I can't hold him. Please tell me he's happy. Please tell me he smiled today. Please. The second letter. November 1979. I sent a package to your address, a stuffed bear, brown, from the toy store on King Street in Alexandria. I know I'm not supposed to send things. I know the arrangement. But it's his first Christmas, and I can't stand the idea that he won't have something from me, even if he never knows it came from me. Please give it to him. Tell him it's from a friend. I remembered that bear. I had it until I was 12. Brown, soft, one eye missing from years of being held too tight. I thought my mother, Lorraine, had bought it. She hadn't. It came from a woman named Josephine who parked across the street and watched me sleep. The letters continued, year by year, birthday by birthday. Josephine's handwriting tracked the passing of time, steady and hopeful in the early letters, more urgent in the middle years and quieter, sadder, more resigned toward the end. Letter number 14, 1986. Odell was 7. Lorraine, you sent me his school photo, 2nd grade. He's lost his front teeth and he's grinning like the whole world is a joke, only he understands. He looks so much like Calvin it takes my breath away. Does Calvin know? No, don't answer that, I know he doesn't. I wonder sometimes if I should tell him. But what would I say? You have a son you've never met because my family decided your skin was the wrong color? How do you tell a man that? Letter number 23, 1991. Odell was 12. He's building things. You told me he takes apart everything in the house and puts it back together. That's Calvin in him. Calvin used to do the same thing. Take apart watches, radios, anything with pieces. He said he wanted to understand how things worked before he tried to design things that didn't exist yet. Odell has that same need to understand. Please don't discourage it. Let him build. Letter number 31, 1996. Odell was 17. Lorraine, I drove past your house last week. I shouldn't have. But Odell was in the driveway working on a car, some old thing with the hood up. He was leaning into the engine with a wrench and his arms were covered in grease, and he was completely absorbed, the way people get when they're doing the thing they were meant to do. I sat in my car and cried for 20 minutes, my son, working with his hands, building things, fixing things, and he has no idea I exist. Letter number 39, 2000. Odell was 21. The Marchetti family is growing. Salvatore has grandchildren now. They have family photos on the mantel at the estate in Alexandria. 23 people in the Christmas photo this year. 23 Marchettis. And not one of them knows about the 24th. I look at that photo and I see a hole where Odell should be. A chair that's empty. A name that's missing. My family erased him before he was born, and they don't even have the decency to feel the absence. Letter number 44, 2002. Odell was 23. I'm sick, Lorraine. I haven't told anyone yet. The doctors say it's treatable, but I can see it in their faces, the way they look at the scans, the way they pause before they speak. I need you to know something. If anything happens to me, Odell needs to know the truth. Not now, not until the time is right. But someday, he deserves to know who he is. He deserves to know that he was loved, not just by you, not just from a distance, but by me, his mother, who held him for 6 hours on the day he was born and has never stopped holding him in her heart. Letter number 47. The final letter. Dated February 3rd, 2003. 7 weeks before Josephine died in a car accident on Interstate 66. Lorraine, I'm writing this because I may not get another chance. If this is my last letter, I want it to contain the one thing I need Odell to know more than anything else. The Marchettis are not his family. I am not his family, not anymore, not in the way that matters. You are his family because you chose him, and Calvin is his family because Calvin is his father, even though Calvin doesn't know it yet. But there is another family waiting for Odell, a family that isn't defined by blood or money or last names, a family that will form around him when the truth comes out, the family of people who will love him for who he is, not in spite of where he came from. When the time is right, tell him. Tell him everything. And tell him the last 5 words I want him to hear from me. Your real family is waiting. I read all 47 letters in one sitting. It took 4 hours. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I didn't move from the floor of my mother's bedroom. I read them in order, from the first letter to the last, and when I finished, I set the stack down, put my hands flat on the floor on either side of me, and breathed. Just breathed. In and out. The way you breathe when you've just been told that you are not who you thought you were, and the grief of that is matched only by the strange, disorienting grace of discovering that you are someone else entirely. My name is Odell Ramsey, but my name is also the son of Josephine Marchetti and Calvin Osei. I am half Italian-American from a family of builders in Alexandria, Virginia. I am half Ghanaian from a man who came to this country to study architecture and fell in love with a woman he was never allowed to keep. I am the 24th Marchetti, the one who was erased, and I am the son that Calvin Osei never knew he had. The next morning, I called Bennett Yardley. Odell, I've been expecting your call. You knew. Your mother told me everything 5 years ago when she updated her estate plan. She asked me to wait until you opened the trunk. Why didn't she just tell me while she was alive? She wanted to, many times, but she made a promise to Josephine, not while Josephine was alive. After Josephine died in 2003, Lorraine struggled with it for years. She wrote that letter to you and revised it 11 times. She wanted to get it right. The birth certificate. Calvin Osei is listed as my father. Yes. Is he alive? He is. He's an architect in Washington, D.C., quite prominent. He designed the annex to the National Museum of African American History, among other things. Does he know about me? No, he was never told about the pregnancy. Josephine's family made sure of that. And the Marchetti family? Salvatore Marchetti is the current head of the family. He's 71. He was the one who enforced the ultimatum in 1979. He's also the trustee of the Marchetti Family Trust. Bennett paused. Odell, your mother's letter mentions a legal provision. As Josephine's biological child, you have potential standing to petition the trust for recognition as a beneficiary, depending on how the trust language is written. I've reviewed similar cases. It's not guaranteed, but it's not frivolous either. How much is the trust worth? Approximately $220 million. The number didn't mean anything to me. Not in the way that $27 million in jewelry had meant something to my sisters, something to covet, to divide, to wear. $220 million was an abstraction. It was a number on a piece of paper, and I am a man who works with his hands, not with paper. I don't care about the money, Bennett. I know you don't. But you should care about the recognition. The Marchetti family erased you. They paid to make you disappear. You have the right to exist in their records, in their history, as Josephine's son. Whether you claim a financial share is your decision, but claiming your identity, that's not about money, that's about truth. And Calvin, that's your decision too. But if I may offer an opinion, a man has the right to know he has a son. I drove to Washington, D.C. on a Saturday in October 2024. Took me 2.5 hours from Williamsburg, straight up I-64 to I-95, the same route Josephine used to drive, when she came to watch me from across the street. I parked outside Calvin Osey's architecture firm in a converted warehouse in the Navy Yard district. The building was glass and reclaimed brick, modern and warm, the kind of design that says, the person who made this understands how to make old things new. I sat in my truck for 30 minutes. My hands were on the steering wheel. They were steady. 20 years of auto body work. You learn to keep your hands still even when everything else is shaking. I went inside. The receptionist was a young woman with an earpiece and a smile. Can I help you? I need to see Calvin Osey. Do you have an appointment? No, but I think he'll want to see me. Tell him. I stopped. What do you tell a man who doesn't know you exist? Tell him it's about Josephine Marchetti. The receptionist made a call, spoke quietly, listened. Her eyebrows rose. She looked at me with new curiosity. Mr. Osey will see you now. The office was large, open, filled with architectural models and drawings and the organized chaos of a creative mind at work. Calvin Osey stood up from behind his desk when I walked in. He was 68 years old, tall, with graying temples, and the kind of posture that suggested he had spent his life standing straight because the world tried to make him bend. He looked at me, and I watched his face do something I have never seen a face do before. His eyes moved across my features, the forehead, the jaw, the hands, and I saw recognition arrive. Not understanding. Recognition. The deep, involuntary recognition of a man seeing his own face in a stranger's. "Who are you?" he asked. But his voice said he already knew, or suspected, or feared. "My name is Odell Ramsey. My biological mother was Josephine Marchetti, and according to my birth certificate," I reached into my jacket, pulled out the document, and set it on his desk. "You're my father." Calvin Osey sat down. Not in his chair. He missed the chair entirely and sat on the edge of his desk, knocking over a cup of pencils that scattered across the floor like pickup sticks. He picked up the birth certificate. Read it. Read it again. Looked at me. Looked at the birth certificate, looked at me. Josephine was pregnant? Yes. When? 1979. I was born April 4th. She gave me to her friend Lorraine to raise because her family wouldn't accept me. Because of me. Because they're who they are, not because of who you are. He set the birth certificate down. His hands were trembling. Architect's hands, precise, creative, designed for drafting lines that become buildings. Those hands were shaking the way mine had shaken when I opened the trunk. "I didn't know," he said. "Josephine, one day she was gone. Her family told me she'd moved to Europe. I wrote letters to every address I could find. They all came back. I thought..." He stopped. pressed his fingers against his eyes. I thought she left because of me, because her family was right and I wasn't enough. She didn't leave because of you. She was taken from you. And she spent the rest of her life writing letters to the woman who raised me, telling her about the man she loved and the son she couldn't keep. I have a son. He said it like he was testing the words, like they were a new material he hadn't worked with before and needed to feel the weight of. I have a 45-year-old son. You do, and you fix cars. I fix cars. He laughed. It came out of nowhere, a sudden, surprised burst that turned into something longer, something that released 45 years of a question he didn't know he'd been asking. He laughed until his eyes were wet, and then he was crying, and then he was doing both at the same time, and I was standing in front of him with no idea what to do, because I had never met my father before and this was not covered in any manual I'd ever read. He stood up, walked around the desk, and he hugged me. I am 45 years old. I have not been hugged by a father since I was a child, and even then I didn't have a father to hug me. I had Lorraine, who was enough, who was more than enough, who loved me fiercely and completely, and without the biological connection that the world says is supposed to matter. But this was different. This was the embrace of a man who had just discovered that the woman he loved 45 years ago had given him the one thing he never knew about. And that thing was standing in his office, 6 feet tall, with grease under his fingernails and a birth certificate in his jacket pocket. "I'm sorry," he said into my shoulder. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. You didn't know. I should have looked harder. I should have found out. They made sure you couldn't. That's not your fault." He pulled back, held me at arm's length, studied my face the way an architect studies a blueprint, looking for the structure underneath, the load-bearing elements, the things that hold everything up. "You have my forehead," he said. "I know. And Josephine's chin. So, I'm told. And your hands." He took my hands, turned them over, looked at the calluses and scars, and the permanent stains from 20 years of paint and primer and body filler. "These are builders' hands. I fix cars. You build things. Cars, trust, a life. That's what builders do." He squeezed my hands. "I'm an architect, Odell. I've spent my entire career designing structures, and I've never seen a foundation as strong as the one that brought you to this office today." The Marchetti situation is ongoing. Bennett filed the petition to the family trust in November. Salvatore Marchetti's attorneys responded with a request for DNA verification, which I provided. The results confirmed what the birth certificate already stated. I am Josephine Marchetti's son. I am a direct descendant. I have legal standing. Salvatore requested a private meeting. We met in January 2025 at Bennett's office in Richmond. Salvatore Marchetti was 71, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than my truck. He looked at me the way Valentina and Francine had always looked at me, with the uncomfortable recognition that I existed and the wish that I didn't. "I know who you are," he said. "Then you know what your family did. What my family did was protect itself. What your family did was erase a child because his father was the wrong color." He flinched. Old men who have spent their lives controlling the narrative don't handle direct truth well. It was a different time. It was 1979, Mr. Marchetti, not 1879. And your sister spent the next 24 years writing letters to the woman who raised me, grieving for the son she was forced to abandon. She died on the 66 at 46 years old, and the last thing she ever wrote was that my real family was waiting for me. She wasn't talking about you. He was quiet for a long time. Bennett sat beside me, silent, letting the moment do its work. "What do you want?" Salvatore asked finally. "Recognition. My name in the family records. Acknowledgement that Josephine Marchetti had a son, and that son is me. I exist, Mr. Marchetti. Your family spent 45 years pretending I don't. That ends now. And the trust? I'll leave that to the lawyers, but I'm not going away, and neither is the truth. The petition is still being processed. It will take months, maybe a year. I don't care about the timeline. The Marchettes have had 45 years of silence. They can handle a few months of truth. Valentina and Francine found out about everything in December. Bennett informed them as part of the estate proceedings. Valentina called me the day she found out. "You're not our brother?" "Not biologically." "Mom adopted you?" "Yes." "And you're connected to the Marchetti family? The Marchettis?" "Yes." A long pause. I could hear the calculations happening. $220 million. The Marchetti Trust. Her adopted brother, the auto body mechanic she had dismissed her entire life, was potentially connected to a fortune that made her $13.5 million in jewelry look like pocket change. "Odell, I think we should talk, as a family, maybe over dinner." "Valentina, you told me at the will reading that Mom had a sense of humor for leaving me the trunk. You called it worthless. You've spent 45 years treating me like I was worthless. And now that the trunk turned out to be the most valuable thing in that house, you want to have dinner?" Silence. "I'll pass." I didn't say it with anger. I said it with the calm finality of a man who has spent his whole life being undervalued by people who couldn't see past his hands and his shop and his tax bracket, and who has finally found something more valuable than their approval. 6 months have passed. It's March in 2025 now. Virginia spring, dogwoods budding, the air warming, that particular quality of light in the tidewater, region that makes everything look like it's being painted in real time. I see Calvin every other weekend. Sometimes I drive to D.C., sometimes he drives to Williamsburg. We're learning each other. 45 years of absence is a lot of ground to cover, and we cover it slowly, the way builders do. Foundation first, then walls, then roof, then the things that make it feel like home. He met Deacon Prewitt at the barbershop last month. Deacon cut his hair and charged him double because city architects can afford it. Calvin laughed so hard he had to take off his glasses and wipe his eyes. He came to my shop, walked through the garage, looked at the tools, the paint booth, the vehicles in various states of repair. He ran his hand along a fender I had just finished sanding, smooth even, ready for primer. "You're good at this," he said. "I've been doing it a long time." "No, you're good at this. The same way I'm good at architecture. It's not practice, it's understanding. You understand the shape of things, how they fit, how they move." He looked at me. "Josephine wrote that you were a builder. She was right. She never met me. She watched you from across the street. She read about you in letters for 24 years. She knew you, Odell. She knew you better than anyone except Lorraine." He introduced me to his other children last month. My half-siblings. Kwame, 36, an engineer at Boeing. Adwoa, 33, a pediatrician in Baltimore. They knew about me. Calvin had told them in October, the same week I showed up at his office. They had taken it well, shock first, then curiosity, then the particular warmth of people raised by a good man who taught them that family is bigger than biology. Kwame shook my hand and said, "I always wanted an older brother." Adwoa hugged me and said, "Dad's been showing everyone your photo. You look just like him." A family I didn't know I had. Not the Marchettis who erased me, not the Ramseys who tolerated me. A new family, assembled from the truth, held together by choice. Josephine was right. My real family was waiting. I'm in my shop right now. Tuesday morning, the radio is playing something country and half-hearted. A 2019 Honda Accord is on the lift with a crumpled quarter panel from a parking lot collision. Deacon is next door, sweeping his barbershop floor, singing off-key through the open window. My phone is on the workbench with a text from Calvin. "Dinner Sunday? I'm cooking?" I smile, text back, "I'll bring the pie." I put down my phone, pick up the sandpaper, get back to work. The trunk is in my living room now. I keep Josephine's letters inside it, along with the birth certificate and the photos Lorraine sent over the years. School pictures, birthday shots, the one of me at 17 working on a car in the driveway, the one Josephine watched from across the street and cried about for 20 minutes. I added one new item, a photo of me and Calvin, taken at his office in the Navy Yard. 2 men standing side by side. Same forehead, same jaw, same hands. His build buildings that didn't exist before. Mine fixed things that people thought were beyond repair. My sisters got $27 million in jewelry. I got a trunk full of letters from a mother I never met, a father I found 45 years late, and the truth about who I am. I got the better deal. Now, I want to ask you something. What would you do if you discovered your entire identity was a secret kept by people who loved you? Would you be angry at the lie or grateful for the love? Would you chase the money or chase the truth? And have you ever opened something everyone told you was worthless and found something inside that changed everything? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, especially someone who's been told they don't belong, someone who's been made to feel worthless by the people who were supposed to love them, someone who's still looking for the family they were meant to have. Sometimes that family is waiting. Sometimes they've been waiting your whole life. Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story. I'll see you in the next one.